In the last few years, our family has really tried to drill down and articulate our goals as well as our vision. And we came back to our board of directors and said, here's a list of our goals for the company. And one of those is to be environmentally responsible.
I mean, it began in 2018 as we're starting to finish our 1 megawatt solar array in Aromas, and we start to think about what can we do next. And the corporate office was the obvious next target because it is so symbolic. I mean, a corporate headquarters of a 118-year-old company at that point, what can we do next? So it was really a very symbolic gesture about where the company wanted to go. So the goal was to become net zero or near net zero. So that means that you reduce your energy consumption to the point where throughout the course of the year, you're basically in balance. So you're taking some off the grid, you're putting it back into the grid with solar, you're cutting it down. So at the end of the year, you're net zero, if you will. So that began in 2018, and we got a plan together in 2019. And it's basically a two-part plan. So the idea is you reduce your energy consumption, and we did efficiency improvements. For example, the HVAC system in the office is a single biggest user of electricity in most office buildings. So if we could become better in the way we use electricity, we're going to reduce our energy usage quite a lot. So we got in some new units, we put in some better controllers on the existing units, and then there's this new type of sophisticated software which operates the HVAC units a lot more efficiently. It's not the old school where you just got little dials on the wall. This is driven by AI. It actually predicts how the building works throughout the course of the day. So it kind of knows when to rev the system up and when it can dial it back to kind of stay in the temperature range you need. So it's very sophisticated controls. So that knocked down our energy usage somewhere around like 30-40% or so. The next thing we did is we changed our lights. So we went to high efficiency LED lighting. That reduced our energy consumption another, 10%, something like that. And then finally, we added window films. So they take down the thermal load coming into the building. So you have less to actually cool down with the HVAC if you have less heat coming into the building. So we knocked our energy use down about 50%, and then we polished off the rest with rooftop solar. And that got us to about 90% energy efficiency. We're not 100% net zero, but we're really close. We're about 90%. And it's been great. It's been a really fantastic project. The charging stations are great. I mean, the backbone of construction company are pickup trucks, right? We've got hundreds of vehicles are owned by Graniterock. Electric vehicles are coming. We're sort of in the first wave. So the electric charging stations were to give us a sense, to get us practice with it, to kind of put our toe in the water and really understand how they work. So right now we have 2 charging stations, each with 2 different hookups. So we can charge 4 different cars at a time. And again, there's incentives for those out there, et cetera. But the charging stations are a great way to understand what the green vehicle revolution is going to be like. It's that first sort of toe in the water.
We actually trimmed the willows back because the red-legged frogs like more sun exposure on this side of the pond. We're here today at Santa Cruz Sand Plant, which has red-legged frog that we manage as part of our habitat conservation plan.
Graniterock Graniterock got the first permit for the California red-legged frog. It's the first permit to work around that frog with a habitat conservation plan, which is a plan to not just preserve as much of the habitat you can around the working land, but it also has a plan to foster, grow, and mitigate, make new habitat for the frog. That plan evolved a lot over time. Over the last couple decades, what the plan contemplated for helping the frog grow back then is very different than what we have to do now. So it really required a lot of lifelong learning, partnering with agencies, partnering with environmental groups, and partnering with experts to figure out what the needs of that frog were. The Endangered Species Act back then was very focused on just breeding habitat for the frog, for example, where we realized you really need a mosaic of habitat for the frog, for all the life cycles of the frog. And I believe last year, even with a drought, we had our highest egg mass count in history. And well, egg mass is how the frogs lay bunches of eggs on the aquatic vegetation, and that's an indicator of how healthy the population is. And people have to go out there and count those and all that good stuff.
We just installed our first Tesla battery at this Redwood City hot plant location. It was a prime candidate for that because our hot plants are heavy energy users, but they're really heavy on demand. So because there's so many components, electric components on a hot plant, demand is based on a second in time during the month of how much energy that you use, that you may need from PG&E or whatever your service provider is. And the provider charges you for that. Whether you use it 1 second a month or every day of the month, they make sure they have the bandwidth to give you that much power. So when you push that button, it's there. So this Tesla technology, battery technology, collects the energy while the plant's not running. And as we push the buttons, the battery kicks on and it reduces the demand that the service provider sees. The plant still has the demand, but they're pulling some of the energy from the battery and from the electrical provider.
This has been many years in the making. This system is going to help save Graniterock a considerable amount of money on their PG&E bill, help them achieve sustainability objectives, and support grid stability locally.
When we started, green was great and people wanted to be green, but when it came to building their project, because green wasn't specified, it was nice to have, the dollars and cents at build time still played out, right? So if the green concrete was more than the traditional concrete was poured and that was what happened, right? But as we get closer to today's world, and we just had a meeting this week where John Erskine is showing where Caltrans and these green specifications now, they're here and they're here to stay. So what we've done over the last 5 years has really positioned us to be proactive, to be prepared for the new specifications that are coming down the pipe.
So an EPD is an environmental product declaration, and it's basically a food label. We call it the food label of concrete. So it lays out all the ingredients in the concrete and applies a value to it. So it lets you know how much carbon is produced by using this product. So typically we want to use the lowest carbon product available. So we have just gone live with a software product that's going to help our green concrete efforts. It's an EPD generator, and it's also a product that allows architects and engineers to utilize this tool to look at our mix designs and help determine the best, most low carbon mixes for their projects. Once they've done building this, then they can calculate. And again, this will scan all of the mixes in the Graniterock archives. And here's the EPD. So it gives you the mix number, it gives you the batch plant, provides a description of the mix, and then it shows the global warming potential.
So our first and foremost largest volume product is recycled base rock, and that can be sold anywhere from Caltrans projects to under slabs, private work. And the other thing that we do very well, I believe, is we try to separate our products into grindings coming off of roads. Then there's mixed products which have rock and asphalt and concrete in it, when that gets made into base rock. And then we separate out concrete. And the thing we can do with concrete, we call it a premium product. We take that clean concrete, we crush it into sand, and we crush it into drain rock, which are a higher margin, higher value product that can be sold back into the market. We're pushing to utilize this recycled material, recycled concrete, in new concrete. So it's been done for years. You can use the crushed rock in place of a virgin aggregate, and you can use the sand. And so that presents some challenges as the way we crush it, the way we process it, and the way it goes through a concrete plant. We're working with the concrete division to utilize more recycled products. Contractors that are paving in the Bay Area have a disadvantage versus the southern market, where everything that they grind and take off has to come to a recycling facility. There's no farms that a contractor could cheaply and efficiently move that material to. So when they're asked to grind, they have to grind a certain depth, and that all has to come back to a recycling facility. And a lot of contractors return the grindings and then take asphalt on the way out the door. So Graniterock has to provide that service to our customers because our customers demand it. And if you want to be in business and stay competitive, you have to be able to offer recycling services. For every ton of asphalt sold, we're over 50% of that volume comes back in as grindings. So in order to move that material off our recycle sites, we have to incorporate it into asphalt. And we put about 20% back into our mixes on average at some sites. The future will be higher wrap contents. Some places in the US, in the world, are already doing 100% recycled products. So, the volume for 100% recycled products isn't sustainable right now, but to go higher wrap is what we're chasing.
So this project has been in the works for about 2.5 years now. Caltrans District 4 has spent a lot of time and energy working with the UCPRC, that's UC Davis Pavement Research Center, and other industry members to find new creative ways to recycle pavements. And this project was identified about 2.5 years ago as one of those potential candidates. The site conditions allowed for us to utilize a technology called cold in place recycling, and we're using a single unit working recycling machine that allows us to process the asphalt in place without hauling any material whatsoever on the job. By using cold in place recycling to rehabilitate the pavement section, what we're able to do is reduce trucking to and from the closest hot plant, which is, if we calc it out the other way, it would be about a 3-hour round trip for one truck. And the amount of volume we're doing out here per day is about 2 miles. So we're talking about hundreds of truckloads being reduced off of this one single project, which equals less greenhouse gas emissions being emitted by those trucks. It's less interruption to the traveling public because we're not putting all those trucks in commuter traffic. It's less wear and tear on the surrounding roadways of the road network while we're trying to operate and fix the pavement where we're at now. So it's a good deal all the way around.
So the solar farms, because it is plural, we actually have 2 different solar farms, are a benefit to Graniterock and to the community. It's a wonderful synergy. So the first solar farm that we installed was a 1 megawatt facility, and then now we have a second solar farm that's coming online. It's a 5 megawatt facility. Both of those solar farms help to offset our demand for electricity. The community benefits because we are being greener in how we are pulling our energy from the grid by doing this local sourcing here at the A.R. Wilson Quarry. It also is a benefit because these solar farms are put onto land that we are utilizing and that have continued in good use. Instead of sitting fallow or unused, they're already disturbed, and let's put them to use to do some good for our community and for Graniterock.
How we got the community involved in this. So the Aromas community, and again, back to the family values of the Wilpert family is right. They totally embrace this project. So not only does it fulfill our business needs, our business values, it is economically viable, but it also, the community's excited about it. We still have a ways to go. We're gonna be about 2/3 of our energy at that site. We're 100% here at corporate, but it'll be about 2/3 of the energy at that site after this project comes on in 22. So we've got a ways to go, but that's achievable in the next decade for us to get, net zero at that site. And then, then we're gonna be an exporter and we're gonna be providing clean energy, to our community.
Well, this is pretty exciting. In 2014, we first started thinking about the idea of solar, energy independence, doing things green. And we kind of hatched this plan, and we got our first 1 megawatt solar installed and operational in 2018. And around that time, we started thinking, what else can we do? What are the other opportunities? And that's when we started meeting with APAL, and they encouraged us, well, hey, what can Graniterock do? Are there additional opportunities to bring green energy to the Aromas area?
My name is Leslie Austin. I'm an Aromas resident. I've lived here since 1986. Aromas is one of those really unique communities. We sit within the recessed corners of 3 counties, essentially. We really don't have a lot of infrastructure or government support. We're not incorporated. We're not really a part of each of these 3 counties in any sort of significant ongoing way. It has created this opportunity for the community to actually come together and do pretty significant work together. And one of those things is this project with Graniterock. Many of us in the community of Aromas formed an Aromas Progressive Action League after the 2018 election. And the purpose of that was really that people were really unsettled by the election, and to take that energy and put it to good use and started focusing on different issues. One of those issues was climate. There were several others, by the way, we were working on, things like immigration and healthcare. But the climate group formed, and within a very short period of time, Seth came up with this idea that if we could, in fact, make a building carbon-free or net zero, couldn't we do that with an entire community? And of course, Graniterock was the biggest user of power in the community, and so they had to be our first knock on the door.
My name is Seth Capron, and I moved to Aromas in 1970. Aromas was a really different place back then. It seemed like the middle of nowhere. But the thing I valued, I think, the most about living in Aromas is the community. There just seems like there's a lot of really caring and committed people. I've been involved over the years in a lot of different projects and efforts with, and it's a great little community. It just made sense to talk to Graniterock because they're the biggest electrical user by far in this region, and a conversation got started and it just developed from there. I mean, we had lots and lots of meetings together, and the Graniterock team was very receptive, and we found out they'd already done a 1 megawatt project right here at the quarry, and so it was a really satisfying collaboration.
So now we're at this exciting point where after years and years of planning and analysis and all these things, we're finally at the point where we're breaking ground. We're moving dirt, we've graded out the pad, we're ready to go. But the exciting part is that it's 15,000 solar modules, and that's about 5 megawatts of energy. I mean, that's just a huge amount of energy. This is one of the biggest behind the meter or net metered solar projects in California, in PG&E's territory, which means basically there's nobody doing a bigger solar project than Graniterock that's not an energy company. I mean, we're really punching above our weight, and it's working out. I mean, it's great because it's green, it saves us money, the communities love it, everyone's behind this, so it's a really exciting time.
So the project has a pretty large footprint. It's just over 20 acres. We moved approximately about 80,000 yards of dirt that we cut from the overburden area in to build the final and finished grades for the solar panel pad. Besides just putting the modules in, we have about 4 miles of power line that we have to install. So that's also been kind of a challenge because you're taking this power line through areas where you don't have roads, you're pioneering roads, doing some grading work just to be able to get the power line contractor to the locations of the poles. And so it's been a challenge.
You know, one of the things that it's tough in the construction industry. Construction folks are not necessarily geared towards being environmental stewards. So as long as the further we can go to change that way of looking at our work, the happier I'll be. Because you know, that's just makes sense to me. It makes good business sense. It makes us good partners with our communities, and it sets us up for the future.